Far beyond the well-traveled paths of known space, where stars flickered dim and dust clouds hid secrets, the human ship Solace drifted quietly, its sensors scanning the darkness for anything unusual. Captain Alara Vance sat in the bridge's soft glow, eyes fixed on the star map, feeling the weight of routine and the endless quiet of space pressing in on her. She knew this part of the galaxy was long abandoned by most, forgotten by traders, ignored by explorers, and left untouched by the great fleets of the Galactic Union. It was a place where the only sound came from the hum of their own ship and the occasional blip of distant signals. Then, almost out of nowhere, the sensors caught a faint pattern buried in the static, a signal so weak it almost slipped away like a ghost's whisper. It was unlike anything they had ever recorded, a call for help, scrambled and old, but unmistakably real. The crew exchanged uncertain glances. Many wanted to dismiss it as interference, noise from ancient starbursts or broken satellites. Yet Alara's curiosity burned. Something about the signal's persistence tugged at her, a silent plea from a forgotten corner of the universe. Without hesitation, she ordered a change of course, steering Solace towards the source, even though it meant breaking protocol and risking unknown dangers. Days passed with no other signs, just cold stars stretching endlessly. The tension grew aboard the ship as the crew wondered what they would find. A trap, a derelict ship, or worse, nothing at all. When they finally approached the coordinates, the view on the main screen revealed a dead world circling a weak red star, its surface barren and lifeless under thick dust storms. Yet nestled in a crater was something artificial, faint outlines of a dome, almost invisible, blending with the moon's gray rocks. The crew's chatter softened into hushed awe as Solace slowly lowered a probe to enter the structure, transmitting live images back to the bridge. Inside, the dome was a frozen garden, a place that had once breathed with life but now lay silent and still. Strange, translucent figures floated motionless within, alien in shape and form, almost like delicate statues carved from crystal. The air inside the dome was thick with silence and mystery, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's instruments. Suddenly, a flicker of light pulsed across the dome's surface, startling the crew. The figures moved, just a little, enough to awaken hope. Ilara's heart pounded as the ship's systems registered a surge of energy, a signal from the beings inside. Then a voice echoed inside her mind, soft yet clear. "We are Eridari, forgotten, lost, but alive." The connection was fragile but unmistakable. The Eridari spoke of an ancient calamity, a sickness that had swept through their people, leaving them trapped in this suspended state, waiting for help that never came. They had sent countless signals over centuries, but all had been ignored, dismissed as myths or errors. The galaxy had turned its gaze away, leaving them to fade in silence. Ilara realized this was more than a mission. It was a chance to change everything, to become the first to answer a call no one else heard. But as Solace prepared to enter the dome and bring the Eridari back to the light, a deep shadow stirred in the dark nearby, something watching, waiting. The stars held their breath, and so did the crew, on the edge of a discovery that could rewrite history or end in silence once more. As Solace's crew prepared to step inside the strange dome, the air inside was filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty, the kind that made even the most experienced explorers hold their breath. Captain Alara Vance led a small team into the habitat, their suits humming softly, lights cutting through the dim, frozen world within, and what they saw was unlike anything they could have imagined. Delicate, almost invisible beings hovering in the air, their forms shimmering like liquid glass, their large eyes filled with a deep sadness that seemed to reach out across the void. One of the beings, who soon revealed himself as Tyrol, managed to communicate through a faint telepathic link, his thoughts slow and heavy but clear, telling the story of the Eridari's rise and fall, a civilization once vibrant and full of joy, known across their sector for their art of sound and harmony, living peacefully for thousands of years until a strange, invisible plague began to spread through their cities, infecting mind and body and turning their world into a silent tomb. And as their condition worsened, they sent desperate signals into space, cries for help that were drowned out by the noise of larger, louder civilizations, more focused on power and profit. They had waited for centuries, trapped in suspended animation, their habitat slowly losing power, their last hope fading with each day that passed. The humans listened in disbelief and horror, realizing how cruel the universe had been to this gentle race. Despite the warning protocols and rules set by the Galactic Union, Alara's heart refused to let the Eridari fade away in silence, and she made the bold decision to break away from the Union's orders and send an urgent call for help back to Earth, pleading for medical aid, scientists and engineers to come to this forgotten place before it was too late. Days passed as they waited for a response, the tension mounting aboard Solace, the Eridari's energy core flickering weakly, each pulse a countdown to oblivion. Meanwhile, Alara and her team worked tirelessly, using the ship's technology to stabilize the habitat's failing systems, all the while communicating with Tiral and the others who shared memories of their lost cities, their music, their families, their hopes, their pain. Slowly, a bond formed between humans and Eridari, fragile yet profound, a bridge between two very different lives united by the simple desire to survive and be heard. But in the cold shadows of space, unknown forces observed these events with growing unease, for not all beings welcomed humanity's interference in the affairs of distant worlds, and a dark presence loomed on the edges of the sector, waiting for the moment to make its move. When the long-awaited reply finally came from Earth, promising aid and support, the crew of Solace felt a surge of relief and renewed purpose. But they also knew this was only the beginning of a greater challenge, one that would test their courage, their loyalty, and the very meaning of compassion in a universe that too often turned its back on those in need. The cry of the Eridari was no longer silent, and the galaxy was about to listen, whether it wanted to or not. Weeks after the first signal was answered, the quiet loneliness of the distant Eridari moon was shattered by the arrival of the human fleet, a small but determined group of ships carrying engineers, doctors, scientists, and diplomats, all eager to help a civilization the galaxy had long forgotten. The ship slipped through the thinning atmosphere with gentle precision, settling around the dome like a ring of promise. While aboard the lead ship, the Horizon, Captain Alara Vance watched carefully, her heart pounding with hope and fear, knowing that the fate of the Eridari now rested on the fragile shoulders of humanity. As the airlocks opened, teams in sleek suits stepped onto the moon's dusty surface, their boots stirring centuries of untouched silence, and they entered the dome with a mix of reverence and urgency, greeted by the Eridari who floated weakly but with curious eyes wide open. The aliens seemed fragile, almost like delicate glass sculptures, but their telepathic voices carried deep emotions, fear, gratitude, confusion, and wonder, as they reached out to these strange, new beings who had finally come to listen. Humans worked tirelessly to stabilize the failing energy core, carefully adjusting the delicate systems that kept the Eridari in stasis, all while doctors studied the alien biology to find a cure for the plague that had stolen their lives. The scientists marveled at the Eridari's unique biology, how they absorbed energy from sound waves and how their minds communicated through harmonics rather than words, and this knowledge became key to unlocking new treatments and ways to revive their people. The Eridari, for their part, began to open up about their culture, sharing memories of music that painted emotions across the sky and stories told through song rather than speech, something humans had never truly experienced before. Slowly, trust grew as humans and Eridari learned from each other, a fragile friendship forming in the midst of desperation. But not all watchers in the galaxy welcomed humanity's intervention. News of the Eridari's revival spread like wildfire through the Galactic Council, causing ripples of unease and suspicion among powerful factions who saw Earth's actions as a threat to the established order. A delegation arrived from the Council, their faces unreadable as they questioned Alara's team, demanding to know why humanity had stepped in where others had chosen to ignore, accusing them of meddling and threatening political stability. Alara stood firm, her voice steady as she argued that compassion should never be political, and that no species had the right to watch another fade away in silence. Tensions rose, but behind the scenes, Earth's support never wavered, sending more aid and resources, turning the isolated dome into a bustling hub of hope and recovery. Meanwhile, the Eridari began to sing again, their voices delicate yet powerful, filling the dome with melodies that seemed to heal both body and soul, and with each note, more of their people awakened from stasis, fragile but alive. A miracle, born of human kindness and determination. Yet even as hope bloomed, the shadow of doubt crept closer, as secret forces watched the rising alliance with growing envy and fear, ready to challenge the humans and the Eridari for control of this unexpected power. The quiet moon that once held only silence was now a beacon, and the question loomed: could humanity protect these fragile new friends in a galaxy that had long forgotten how to care? As the Eridari grew stronger, their song began to rise from the silent dome like a soft breeze turning into a powerful storm, a melody that was not just sound but a feeling that touched every listener deep inside. Humans and Eridari worked together to compose a song of awakening, a symphony meant to celebrate survival and hope, blending human instruments with the unique harmonics of the Eridari's voices, creating something never heard before in the galaxy, an emotional bridge between species. When the time came to share this song beyond the moon, the humans transmitted it across the stars during a celebration marking the Eridari's return, and the music traveled far and wide, reaching distant worlds and alien ears that had never before heard such raw beauty. The song stirred emotions long forgotten among countless civilizations, bringing moments of silence to warlords and diplomats alike, touching artificial intelligences with echoes of empathy and sparking curiosity and wonder in places where hope had once died. As the melody floated through space, broadcasts from various alien races began flooding the communication channels, expressing awe, respect, and an unexpected desire to connect with the Eridari and humanity, creating a ripple effect that challenged old prejudices and deep-seated fears. However, this newfound attention brought dangers as well, for not everyone welcomed this harmony. Powerful factions, threatened by the growing influence of the Eridari-human alliance, began to plot behind closed doors, fearing a shift in the balance of power that could undo decades of political control and dominance. Among them was the Talar Dominion, a mighty empire known for its strict control over the sector, who sent a formal warning to Earth and the Galactic Council, demanding humanity withdraw from the Eridari world or face consequences. Captain Alara Vance and her crew found themselves at the center of a growing storm, as diplomacy turned into tense negotiations, and the once quiet moon became a flashpoint for galactic politics. Despite the warnings, the Eridari chose to stand with humanity, their voices rising in a new chorus of defiance and hope, their song now a symbol of resistance against neglect and oppression. The humans, aware that their actions could spark conflict, doubled their efforts to protect the Eridari, setting up defenses not with weapons, but with shields and communication networks designed to ensure the moon remained a place of peace and healing. Across the galaxy, millions tuned in to the broadcasts. Many moved to tears, others to action, questioning old alliances and the cold silence that had once condemned the Eridari to oblivion. Even those who had ignored the Eridari before could no longer turn away from the song that shook the stars, a reminder that every voice, no matter how small, deserves to be heard. But in the shadows beyond the reach of the broadcasts, the Talar Dominion prepared a darker response, sending fleets to watch and wait, their intentions unclear, but their presence a clear threat. As the Eridari's song continued to echo through the void, the question hung heavy in the air. Could the power of music and compassion truly change a galaxy built on fear and silence? Or would it ignite a firestorm that would threaten everything humanity had worked to build? The quiet that had settled over the Eridari moon was shattered when the massive shadow of the Talar Dominion's dreadnought appeared in orbit, a dark sentinel casting a cold, oppressive presence over the fragile dome and the bustling human aid station below. The humans aboard the horizon and their allies watched with tense eyes as the Dominion sent a formal message, demanding that Earth withdraw its forces immediately, claiming that the Eridari world was within their sphere of influence and that human interference was a dangerous provocation. Captain Alara Vance, standing firm, refused to bow to threats, knowing that pulling back would mean abandoning the Eridari to a slow death once again. The United Earth Council, while wary of escalating conflict, recognized the moral and political weight of the situation and authorized a defensive shield to surround the Eridari habitat, a barrier designed not to harm but to protect, a promise that humanity would stand as a guardian, not a conqueror. This shield became a symbol of hope, glowing softly against the dark void, a line drawn in the dust of space between compassion and cold politics. As the dreadnought loomed above, humans worked day and night to strengthen the habitat systems and prepare for any possible attack, while diplomats scrambled to find peaceful solutions, aware that the eyes of the galaxy were now watching closely. Meanwhile, the Eridari themselves grew bolder, their song swelling with new power and purpose, becoming a rallying cry not just for their survival, but for recognition and respect from the entire galactic community. Tiral, once quiet and reserved, now spoke openly, addressing broadcasts that reached billions, his voice calm but full of conviction as he reminded all who would listen. When we were silent, you ignored us. When we sang, you listened. But only humans heard both. These words echoed across systems, stirring debate, sympathy, and a few grudging respect. In response, the Dominion tightened its grip, sending spies and saboteurs, hoping to undermine the fragile alliance from within, spreading rumors of human arrogance and Eridari manipulation. But the humans and Eridari held strong, their unity growing stronger with each challenge, and even some factions within the Galactic Council began to question the Dominion's harsh stance. On the ground, the tension was almost tangible, the dust of the moon swirling around the busy station, conversations hushed and quick, eyes constantly scanning the stars for the looming threat. Then, one night, a mysterious event shook everyone. The shield detected an unidentified vessel attempting to breach the perimeter, slipping through the defenses only to be chased away by human patrols before it could cause harm. The incident raised alarms and fears of an imminent attack, but also steeled the resolve of the defenders, who now understood that this was more than a political struggle. It was a fight for the right to care, to protect, to be heard. Even as negotiations continued in distant chambers, the line in the dust had been drawn not just in space but in hearts and minds across the galaxy. And amid this, Alara stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars, knowing that whatever came next, humanity had changed the story. No longer silent observers, but active protectors of a fragile race that once was forgotten, their future now intertwined. The question remained: could compassion hold strong against the cold weight of power, or would the stars witness a conflict that could silence the Eridari once more? The tension that had built for months finally reached its breaking point when the distant stars seemed to hold their breath and the galaxy's balance teetered on the edge of chaos. The Talar Dominion's fleet, larger and more heavily armed than anyone expected, moved closer to the Eridari moon, their warships casting long shadows across the fragile human settlements below, while Captain Alara Vance and her crew braced for what could become a battle that might decide not only the fate of the Eridari, but the future of human influence in the galaxy. Yet amid the growing fear of war, the Eridari prepared their greatest gift. A song not of sorrow or plea, but of unity and strength. A melody crafted through months of recovery and hope, designed to reach beyond shields and weapons to touch the hearts of all who listened. As the first notes carried through space, transmitted by the powerful arrays on the moon's surface and amplified by human technology, something unexpected happened. Across the fleet of the Talar, even among their hardened commanders and crews, the song stirred emotions long buried beneath duty and fear, shaking doubts and opening minds to the possibility that there was more to this conflict than power and control. Messages of hesitation and calls for peace began filtering through the Dominion's ranks, confusion growing as the music wove a tapestry of shared pain and hope that no weapon could destroy. Alara, sensing the moment, reached out through diplomatic channels, urging leaders on both sides to listen to the song not as a threat, but as a bridge, reminding them that the Eridari were not pawns, but living beings deserving of respect and compassion. The Galactic Council, watching anxiously from afar, found itself forced to reconsider its position, as voices across systems called for an end to the conflict, inspired by the courage of humanity and the haunting beauty of the Eridari's song. As negotiations slowly opened, the song continued to echo through space, changing the mood from one of hostility to one of cautious hope, proving that sometimes the greatest weapons are not guns or shields, but the simple power of understanding and connection. After days of tense talks, a fragile agreement was reached. The Tilar would withdraw their fleet, and the Eridari world would be protected as a sanctuary, a living monument to unity and compassion, while humanity's role as protector and ally was officially recognized, signaling a new chapter in galactic relations. The victory was not without cost. The moon's surface bore scars of tension and fear, and many questions remained about the future. But the most important truth endured. No voice, no matter how small or forgotten, would be ignored again, as the Eridari sang their song once more, this time as a symbol of hope and new beginnings. Captain Alara Vance stood beside Tiral, both watching the stars that had once been silent witnesses, now alive with possibility, knowing that their echo had changed everything. The galaxy had learned to listen, and in that listening, it found a path toward a future where compassion could outshine conflict, and where humanity's choice to intervene had not only saved a race but transformed the heart of the stars themselves.